Yeah, and it's incredible you don't see that the same guy responsible for almost every movie, and
For
you're
every
involved
single movie,
for
not
every single
almost.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean everything gets rebooted or remade, but these guys, you're still going with it, and it's so great.
Dolls, they're always creepy. Look at these things. What is it? What the fuck are you? Yeah, these things are unnerving. And not only did 1988's Child's Play capture that fear of these creepy, expressionless things very well, but also midway through turned that doll into a trashy, comedic serial killer who spawned a franchise that's been running for 3 decades. This is all thanks to Mr. Don Mancini, the guy who came up with the whole concept of Chucky, a name that everybody knows now, especially thanks to that dog in a Chucky costume. It's cute, but the movies made him popular too. So Mancini wrote every single movie of the franchise and even directed the last 4. This is so rare in long-running horror franchises. The big guys usually go through so many different visions, directors, writers. Halloween now has, 5 different timelines? Nightmare on Elm Street has 4. Jason became a zombie halfway through the franchise, then became a rapey worm, and went to space. But Chucky, although he went through various changes throughout the years, has always managed to stay true to Mancini's original vision. Since 1988, it's been one long canonical series of films, and I love that. I love that.
Night, Andy.
You little shit! Do you know what you've done?
It's 2017. Blade Runner 2049 is flopping and I'm sad, but most importantly, Cult of Chucky just came out, holds a 79% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 69% Metascore on IMDb. The film leaves fans on a massive sequel bait. What's gonna happen to everyone? Nika, Andy, Jennifer Tilly, Mancini is full of excitement, ready to expand his universe even wider.
Now we can do separate individual stories. It's just an intriguing new direction, I think, and it helps keep everything alive.
Then, on July 3rd, 2018, a voodoo lightning bolt hits us right in the goddamn face. That's right, MGM announced that a Child's Play remake was in the works, with none of the original cast and crew, and instead being written by the guy who wrote Half-Naked Raccoon, and directed by the guy who did Polaroid, a classic. So fans were all kind of wondering what the hell was happening, right? I mean, we've been following this for so long, and wondering where this crazy story would lead next. And then this shows up? What the fuck happened? Well, Mancini sure as hell did not agree for a remake. It wasn't his idea, wasn't his plan. In fact, he was very public about it.
Obviously, my feelings were hurt, that I had just done 2 movies. They were well regarded.
Absolutely.
And I did create the character and nurture the franchise for 3 fucking decades.
So, who's to blame here? Who can I point my filthy finger at? Oh, there it is! Right there! Do you see? Kill it! You see, the first Child's Play was produced by MGM, but the other sequels were produced by Universal, except for Seed of Chucky, which was produced by Rogue. In any case, while scrubbing through their dirty, polluted dumpster, MGM scraped the bottom of the trash, and through the crap, they found a glaring light, a desperate hope to make a little bit of money and perhaps cover maybe 5% of their enormous debts by shitting out a movie they didn't care about simply because they could. And that was Child's Play.
But sir, we haven't owned the rights since 1988.
Don't worry. Due to a technicality, as shady as Freddy Krueger's trial, we can do whatever we want with it. Hooray. It's a fucking celebration.
Oh my god, let's go bitches, make it rain.
I often stab people to death and drink their blood.
And here it is, released on June 19, 2019. Yes, in June, perfect for a film that takes place on Christmas. Of course, this is very frustrating for the Chucky family that's been working together for years, but hey, at least Mancini was able to make that Chucky TV show and continue the storyline, so there is justice after all. But man, what a shit show, huh? Nobody wanted this, and yet we got it anyways. It's kinda like that U2 album that was forced into everybody's music library. No thanks. But what's this? What's this? To my great surprise, upon its release, Child's Play is getting pretty positive reviews. People don't hate it, and people even claim it's as good as the original. Well, perhaps I was too quick on judging it. After all, some remakes are decent out there, and adding a modern twist to the original classic could be interesting. Okay, let's give it a shot.
Yay! Say dick cheese. Dick cheese.
Okay, it sucked. Now, to be fair, Child's Play 2019 isn't as bad as, say, the Nightmare on Elm Street remake or Rob Zombie's Halloween, but it is nonetheless a very frustrating movie riddled with many flaws that, yes, can be overlooked if you just want to have a good time. As a fan of the original and the Chucky character as a whole, though, I wanted to express my criticisms and disappointments. Thankfully, I'm sure everybody will be civil about it. That's how it always is on the internet. Okay, so what is Child's Play? Most people know that it's a killer doll, but more precisely, just to refresh our memory, it's about a serial killer, Charles Lee Ray, transferring his soul into a good guy doll by chanting some voodoo spell. The doll is then bought by Karen, who gives it to her son Andy. And, well, soon enough, the doll starts killing people left and right. It's a very simple premise, in the veins of the Living Doll episode from Twilight Zone, or that horrifying thing in Trilogy of Terror. This has scarred me for life. And though Child's Play is very similar to those at first, the difference here is that once Chucky reveals himself, he becomes an actual character. He has a personality, and it's great. In fact, it's what made this franchise so popular. The remake follows a similar path on the surface. A single mom gives her lonely son a doll that turns evil and kills people. But here's the difference. In this one, it's a robot.
I am a machine.
And there's cell phones and cars that drive automatically. I think it's the future, although there's no indication that it is. Now, the Blu-ray barely has any special features, which is pretty disappointing. I would have loved hearing the bullshit they had to say about this film, but I think I've still got enough. So the one thing that keeps on coming back and hitting you in the goddamn face like a brick is that it's relevant.
Like, he's smart and he's learning, like,
the dangers of technology, right?
Is really relevant for right now because Chucky is a smart doll.
Chucky is a smart doll.
Makes Chucky relevant again. Wow, this is a really relevant, made it relevant.
It's an evil robot.
Relevant. Felt like something that was relevant. Our relationship with technology, and our relationship with technology, and it's an intelligent doll.
AI gone wrong. It's very topical nowadays.
Machines, artificial intelligence.
AI, artificial intelligence.
AI, technology.
Hey, thank you very much. Thanks. Thank you.
Is the idea that all the technology in your house is controlled by the same AI via Bluetooth an interesting one? Sure, just like it was in a Treehouse of Horror segment 20 years ago, but the problem here is that Child's Play 2019 is stuck between two personalities. It's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, or Norman Bates and his mother, or Ellen in front of cameras and out in public. It's trying to do two things at the same time and succeeds with none. Child's Play doesn't know what it wants to be. What are you? Being a remake, it's obligated to follow a certain guideline, meaning poor divorced mom lives with her loner son gets an evil doll, son tries to convince people that the doll is alive, slasher stabby stabs, cop blaming deaths on the kid, cop realizing kid was right and saves the day. But the problem is that although the premise seems pretty much to be the same, this new Child's Play is focused on the dangers of AI to the point of having nothing to do with the original. So why does it not work as an AI Bluetooth horror film? Well, because Chucky would never be sold as a robot friend. The fictional company in this film, Kazlan, creates these high-tech devices to improve your lifestyle, and they're all connected together. And they pretty much look like Apple products. They're really slick with simple white designs. And then, what else you got, Kazlan? Oh my god, what is this? You see, because they need to follow the guidelines of the original movie, well, they need to have this doll that fits in no way whatsoever with 100% of the other products Kazlan sells. It already takes me out of it. If they had total freedom without being tied to another property, the AI-friendly robot gone wrong could have been way more realistic and engaging. For example, there's this pretty bad Black Mirror episode with Miley Cyrus. The screenplay is terrible, but I'll give it the praise it deserves. At least the AI robot feels real, like it could maybe exist. It looks like a clean white Apple-like product, it's got a cute simple design, and then there's this horrifying doll! Here the eyes are just LED circles, the voice sounds like it's coming out of little shitty speakers.
Hey there, I'm Ashley too.
And I like the detail where whenever someone talks to it, it takes a second to process the sentence and then answers. Yeah, I could see this existing in the real world soon enough. This though... Oh my God! It makes sense for a kid to be so in love with this little machine because it's got the voice and the supposed personality of her favorite singer. Of course she's gonna gush over that. Also, just like Chucky, the little robot even plays a song. But here it's a pop song from the girl's favorite singer. Its eyes change color, it starts dancing. It's pretty charming. Again, very realistic. It's something I could imagine happen in the future, and a pretty smart way to make money by exploiting children's love for a brand. Then we have Mark Hamill singing a buddy song completely off key.
You are my buddy until the end. More than a buddy. You're my best friend.
Oh my god. Not a single child in the world would enjoy hearing this. It sounds like a creepy lullaby. Why would a company do that? The Ashley robot from Black Mirror is also a decent excuse to give exposition without it being forced. Ashley is the girl's new friend, so it makes sense that the robot is programmed to care for her and ask her how she's doing.
She died a couple of years back.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
By doing so, the girl can talk about her different struggles, her difficult past, her rocky relationship with her sister, and it fits with the narrative. What does Fucky say?
Are we having fun now? 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 Are we having fun now?
Isn't it funny and cute? Guys, they're not taking themselves seriously. Therefore, the movie is excellent. Don't get me wrong, a Bluetooth house controlling every technological thing can turn dangerous, yeah. Especially if it's slightly futuristic. There's so many things that can kill you in your house. I would know. But guess what? They don't do anything with it because it needs to be a slasher film. So besides from a few instances that barely change anything to the plot, Chucky just stabs, which defeats the whole purpose. And the saddest part is that in the special features of the Blu-ray, there's a great claymation short that does exactly that. It's amazing. I watched it 10 times and I love it. It smartly and playfully uses the technology aspect to kill people. It's bloody, it's fun, it's creative and original. That's a movie I want to see. Again, it reminds me of that Treehouse of Horror episode where the house is trying to kill Homer. Now that's AI gone wrong, done right. But because they're obligated to have a killer doll, the idea is not used properly. Even when Chucky does use technology to control a car and hurt a lady, he still finishes her off with a knife. Therefore, I think it doesn't work as an evil AI film. But the new Child's Play also doesn't work as a killer doll movie because it has no supernatural element. It's played as a realistic film, and although there's plenty of jokes and it doesn't take itself all too seriously, it never indicates that the world itself is a joke. They drop the voodoo stuff in order to have a more believable story that people could imagine happening. So therefore, how the fuck can this 3 feet tall robot capture a grown woman and tie her up in a jigsaw trap? How can this 3 feet tall doll resist and fight back against 2 preteens, including a larger one? No offense.
Help me see something wrong!
Yeah, I don't know. You tell me, screenwriter. You shot yourself in the foot. There's no reason a 3 feet tall machine can't be held down by 2 preteens, and their excuse is, let's have the kids wonder why it's so strong.
Help me see something wrong!
But never come back to this. They're probably just gonna forget, so we don't have to explain it. There's many instances like that. It's like when Karen locks Chucky up because Andy plays too much with it, and then at one point Chucky breaks the window and escapes. Does this ever come back in the plot? Does Karen wonder why there's a huge hole in the glass and why the doll is back as if nothing ever happened? No. No, it does not. So it all comes back to my original point. Either have a murdering AI house, like that great animated short, and you've got a fun movie on your hands. Or have an actual killer doll movie and do it in your style, kinda like the Evil Dead remake. You could take the concept and add psychological thriller elements, like in Mancini's original script.
In my original script, the doll is actually a sort of supernatural manifestation of the boy's id.
Or this time, maybe have the parents be afraid of the doll, and then nobody believes him. I don't know, it could be a criticism on consumerism, and instead of being about kids, it's more so about the adults being naive and buying their children's love. I don't know, I'm not a screenwriter, that's your job. I don't pretend to be any more talented than this guy or anybody else, but all I'm saying is the movie doesn't fulfill its promise of focusing on AI technology and all the danger it can cause, and it doesn't succeed at being a slasher film since the kills feel out of place and not in tone with the rest of the movie. The two just don't work together.
Come on, talk. I said talk to me, damn it! Please shut up.
Well, that was a lot of talking that could have been summarized by saying the film was fucked from the start. I do want to mention that yes, a lot of people love the technology aspect and would argue that the two different genres that I mentioned earlier fit together very well. All the more power to you. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yay!
But what truly messes up the film, what truly made me realize I was hating it, is Chucky. They got nothing right with Chucky. None of what makes the character of Chucky, Chucky. I can understand the will to make something different, reinvent the character a little bit, maybe like how Jason in the remake is a survivalist who's very smart, or maybe even how Wes Craven brought his unique twist to Freddy in New Nightmare. But here, besides from the name and the somewhat similar design, which we'll come back to, there's nothing whatsoever that could indicate that this is a new version of Chucky. Here's why.
Sometimes people would ask, how can this little thing be so strong that it can drag people around by the neck? Alex, with the logic of a child, would just like say, well, the soul has weight.
Wow, that's good.
Chucky has no soul. They missed the whole point, or rather, deliberately avoided it. Chucky is one of the most popular horror villains because he's a character. He's an evil killer inside a doll that murders people. Chucky is witty and funny. It makes sense that he kills because he's a fucking killer, and he has motivations, aka getting his human form back. That's the whole reason why Child's Play felt so fresh, despite the many possessed doll movies that came before it. It wasn't just a creepy doll, but a real guy. And what's great about this guy loves being evil, just like me. He's having the time of his life, taunting his victims, creepily laughing, just being entertaining. The new Chucky is a robot who wants to be friends with Andy, so much so that he kills everybody in the way. But for a horror film, it's a complete misfire. Having Chucky act like a 5-year-old the whole film is just obnoxious and boring. Here the robot's evilness comes from, get this, a worker switching off the safety protocols. It comes out of nowhere. This guy is just staring blankly in the distance, gets slapped in the face by a cartoon villain, and then, let the hacking begin! Safety protocol? Not on my fucking watch. Removed! All safety protocols removed! Alright, I'ma kill myself now. Why even bother doing this if it's the company he hates so much? Like, by doing this, he knows it's probably just gonna cause the death of an innocent kid, right? Why don't you just kill your boss, play around in his blood, as we all would, and then throw yourself off the roof? I guess by making the robot evil, it's gonna cause trouble with the company and it's gonna have to close down? I don't know. But therefore, the doll becoming a serial killer by watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, along with having an evil button turned on, feels just completely forced and stupid, like a sloppy excuse to have slasher scenes that belong in another movie.
Yep, here's your problem. Someone set this thing to evil.
Also, this takes out all the scariness of the original. Now, is the 1988 movie gonna give you nightmares? No, it's not terrifying, but it does have some pretty creepy scenes and implications. The thing that really gets me is that this 6-year-old kid is sleeping with his doll. Not in a, he's not fucking it, but he's sleeping with it. And the audience knows that inside it lies a filthy murderous psychopath. There's something just very disturbing about that. In this movie, Chucky also manipulates Andy to bring him wherever he wants. He doesn't just kill, he's also evil on a psychological level. The remake opted to have the misunderstood good guy approach, pun intended, by having Chucky start as a genuine good guy and gradually get corrupted. Again, if you want to do something different, fine, but this option turns this horror film into Of Mice and Men, except Lenny is a robot doll. Your movie villain is this brain-dead child being too dumb to understand anything, and this lessens his personality, his motivations, and his overall character. Now, we need to talk about the elephant in the room, the character design. This new Chucky might just be the worst thing I've ever seen in my whole life. Sewer Jason from Jason Takes Manhattan is a better character design than this piece of turd. This Beyonce picture is fat material compared to this. Now I will say this new Chucky design accomplishes one thing. It's absolutely horrifying. Just looking at it corrupts your soul little by little. But that's not because the character design is good, it's because the doll is so ugly. It's got an ass face.
Phone home.
So before we delve deeper into this, let's first explore why the original Chucky works so well. First of all, you believe the Good Guy Doll Company exists. They have good guy clothes, good guy cereals, a good guy TV show, little accessory packs, the dolls, etc, etc. Hello. It makes complete sense that in the late 80s, there would be a toy company as popular as this. And although Mancini denies having been inspired by it, Chucky looks an awful lot like these My Buddy dolls. It looks like an actual doll you would buy for your kid. And although all dolls are creepy in the world, this one's pretty cute. But here's the great thing. Chucky slowly but surely becomes human the longer he stays in the doll.
You're turning human?
What?
And therefore, throughout the film, he actually changes physically. The more it goes and the more human he looks.
More time you spend in that body, more human you become.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I said. His hair gets uglier, his face gets meaner, and by the end, he looks like a serial killer. Then, the icing on the cake, they burn that little shit and he becomes a psycho Terminator. This is horrifying. If we take a look at the doll at the beginning of the movie and the doll at the end, the character evolves and becomes increasingly scarier. That's the thing that's missing with this new Chucky. He doesn't change because there's nothing supernatural about him, so whether he's happy or feeling murderous, he's mostly gonna have the same fucking face. The only exception being that when he turns evil, his eyes turn red. But, forgive me if I'm wrong, but doesn't that kind of not make any sense at all? I'm no robot programmer, but I mean somebody had to program these eyes to change colors, right? So why would they do that if they're only gonna have blue eyes for every single product? Do you get what I mean? Like, why does it have red eyes? In the logic of this universe, who designed this? I don't know, maybe it's stupid, but anyways, by having one single design that doesn't evolve, the doll is never cute and it's never scary. The only thing it is ugly. Once more, at the risk of repeating myself, if they had done their own thing, they wouldn't have to make a modern version of Chucky, who clearly looks like a 90s character. It feels completely out of place, like he belongs somewhere else.
You're gonna thank me when she's gone. When they're all gone.
Another very important thing with Chucky is the voice. Brad Dourif has brought such an iconic voice to Chucky. He's got the wit and the charm, the jokes, the filth, the anger. He brings him to life, no pun intended. So evidently, people were curious as to who would replace him for a remake, and turns out everybody was pleased to hear that it would be Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker himself, and the best Joker there is. And everybody seems to have loved his performance. Now, I love Mark Hamill just like anybody else. He's a childhood hero, and he does what he can in this film, but again, the Chucky voice kind of makes no sense. Once more, this is not a serial killer inside a doll. This is a product aimed at young children, and therefore should make them feel safe and happy. But when Andy gets the doll, and once it starts speaking, it sounds like a 65-year-old with a raspy voice talking to someone.
What's your name?
No company in the world would put out a product with this voice. It should sound soothing and comforting, a little childish, and maybe slightly robotic. Here it's Mark Hamill talking in a high-pitched voice.
I do not think it's stupid.
I love the guy, but it doesn't work with the world they created.
My name is Chucky Tina.
Now that sounds like a doll voice.
Hi, I'm Chucky.
Well, that sounds like a doll voice.
Good night, Andy.
Well, that sounds like molestation waiting to happen. It's honestly just a complete waste of a great actor, because Chucky has nothing to say except for these childlike sentences.
Are we having fun now?
I get it, they're doing something different.
AI.
That's fine, but by that logic, the robot should sound like Siri and not like Mark Hamill.
I'm on it.
The last little bit of criticism I have with the Chucky doll of the remake is how unconvincing it is. Oh, my voice just cracked. Obviously, in all the interviews and promotional material you can find, everyone says that the director focused heavily on practical effects. He wanted this to feel old school, and there were like 9 different dolls on set, etc.
I thought most of it was going to be CGI, but they had like an animatronic doll.
Having animatronics be a lot of the times that we see Chucky.
Animatronic.
Of course, the original Child's Play had amazing puppet work. Pretty damn revolutionary for the year it came out, so it would probably make bad press to say that they changed it all for CG. And props to them, there's some pretty good puppet work in the new film, but the CGI is very unconvincing. Listen, I don't care if you put CG and it's well done. If it's seamless and helps sell the effect, then go for it, it's great. But CG Chucky? Boy does it look bad. Not only does it have a terrible design that I hate, but it also looks fake as fuck and constantly reminded me that this wasn't a thing that existed. Like, why did you need CG for this shot? You know, just use a little person or an animatronic doll holding a knife. It ain't too hard. There's something about the eyes and the mouth that feels so fake. It's very uncanny valley, which some might say is the intention. I can understand that because it is pretty disturbing, but again, no high-tech company would sell a robot doll that looks like this. The special effects were somehow worse than they were 30 years ago. And with all of that combined, I would argue that they failed to bring a new Chucky to life.
I love you.
Well, the whole idea for this movie was kinda crap from the start, and the main villain featured on the poster isn't great, but hey, the original Child's Play isn't just about a killer doll. At the heart of the story lies a great family drama. You feel bad for Andy getting blamed for all of this when he can barely comprehend what the hell is happening. You feel bad for Karen, who's afraid that 1, her son might be crazy, and 2, they might take him away from her. Sure, the cop character isn't the most charismatic. I do like his nonchalant, cool guy attitude.
God damn it.
But he is a bit underdeveloped. Still, the main duo dynamic is excellent. So, how about these guys from the remake? Well, I don't think they're very good. But I will say this, I do like Aubrey Plaza. I enjoy her dry sense of humor, and I thought she was pretty funny and likable.
Just like that time you banged Susan in the warehouse. How's your wife, by the way?
I also really like the cop character. He was a comedic relief, but not an annoying one. I think he's pretty much the most relatable character of the bunch. But these guys though, talk about fucking annoying.
Say dick cheese. Dick cheese.
You know how Andy is a loser who doesn't have any friends? Well, at one point these guys just show up and they're like, hey, now you're my best friend and we're going to hang out constantly.
And we're doing it right now.
That's about it. In the next scene, they're already calling each other Dick Turd.
Let's move, dick turd!
Well, that was easy. I don't believe for a second in this friendship. And it also lessens the impact of Andy being alone. That's kind of a character trait, right? You feel bad for him, and you understand that maybe he could somehow, perhaps, become friends with a robot doll, despite being like 14. You know, you can get pretty desperate when you're lonely, look at me. But then he makes friends no problem, and so this character trait is thrown out the window. It's almost like his loneliness was a plot device so that the doll could become friends with him and then turn evil. Anyhow, these two are also comedic reliefs, kind of like 90% of the characters in this film, and every word uttered by them sent cringe shivers down every fiber of my body.
Say dick cheese.
They aren't just unfunny, they're annoying. Completely underdeveloped, they just appear out of nowhere, barely serve any purpose. As for Andy, Well, he's not the worst, but he's far from being as likable as Andy from the original. You know, you root for this little kid because he's getting manipulated by this killer. You feel bad for him because you know that he's too young to understand anything. He's very vulnerable, and his performance captures this feeling very well. This scene where he breaks down in tears is just gut-wrenching. The new Andy feels more like a preteen brat. He's often frowning and sighing.
Is that a sigh?
And asking his mom for a new phone even though his mom is poor. The acting is also not necessarily the most convincing, although this might be the dialogue and not the guy. He does his best and props to him. And I will say this, he does have a pretty heartwarming relationship with his mother. The bond between these two is cute and it kind of carries the movie. Then we've got Karen's boyfriend, who's the cliche bad guy boyfriend we've seen 1,000 times before. You know, he's that idiot who can only say mean things and act like an asshole constantly. It's almost as if he was written for the audience to wish for his death. Oh. Man, it just all feels cookie cutter. The obvious comedic reliefs, the other obvious comedic reliefs, the obvious asshole, that obvious creep guy who has no redeeming qualities, and the main struggling characters. At least the characters in the original feel like real people. Not just stereotypes, but real genuine human beings. Here, they just don't leave much of an impression, and despite liking the mother and son dynamic, there's a complete lack of conflict and stakes. Ooh, that looks delicious. Child's Play 2019 left a sour taste in my mouth, but it's at least miles better than Polaroid, which I unfortunately have watched. The original is far from being perfect, but it remains a classic that does almost everything right. This one is like a fun water slide, but they forgot to put the water in.
It burns, it burns, it burns, it burns! Oh, it burns!
Ouch. Anyways, that's about all I had to say about these two films. Let me know what you think of them. And as always, thanks for watching, and keep watching horror movies. It's good for your health. Bye bye.
I persuade you to subscribe.